By now, we all know Eminem. He started off by releasing his debut solo album Infinite in 1996, and now he has become one of the most popular artists in rap music today, with multiple albums selling millions of copies, and even 2 of them going diamond. Whether you like his music or not, it's really hard to deny his success and how well he manages to appeal to different groups of people. My name is CDTVProductions, and today we're going to be ranking Eminem's discography of all his studio albums from the worst to the best. Now for the album I put worst here, at our 8th spot in this we have Infinite, released in 1996. When they put Infinite at the worst spot, it doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't a great album. It just doesn't live up to the greatness of all the other albums released by Eminem, because I love all of his albums. Every album on this list I love. It's just ranking it from what I consider to be the worst to best. So this is by no means a bad album. It's just not as good as his other ones. Also, as this is his debut, it has fairly cheap production that could be largely improved on, with pretty much every track being produced by his friend and fellow rapper Mr. Porter. Despite this, you can still see from day one that Eminem's lyrics are on point, especially on my favourite track, the album opener and title track, Infinite. It may be the worst album in my opinion by Eminem, but it still contains some fantastic tracks, and it's still a great album. At number 7, we have Encore, released in 2004.
Entrepreneur who has helped launch a few more rap acts, who's had a few obstacles thrown his way through the last half of his career, typical manure, moving past that. Mr. Kiss his ass crack, he's a class act. Rubber band man, yeah, he just snaps back.
Here we have perhaps another obvious choice for one of Eminem's lackluster albums. Now, for me this is a very mixed album, because on one hand it has some classic tracks, such as like Toy Soldiers and Yellow Brick Road, but it also contains some tracks that, to be honest, are just downright awful to listen to, such as Rain Man and Big Weenie. Although on these tracks sometimes they can be quite funny, but not in an intelligent way. Honestly, it's not even an awful album, it's just not great for Eminem. Also worth mentioning that We As Americans has one of my favourite Eminem lines just because of how honest it was.
Fuck money, I don't rap for dead presidents. I'd rather see the president dead. It's never been said, but I said precedent.
And that line was even censored on the uncensored cut of the album, which shows you how much hot water it could have landed him in. At our 6th spot in the rankings, we have Relapse, released in 2009.
For you to turn the corner so he can corner ya. You're a corner, he's on ya. Out the corner of his corner, ya. He just saw you run. All you want is to rest, cause you can't run anymore, you're done.
Now here's one that I honestly think a lot of people will disagree with me on. This album is loved by a lot of people, but for me it just was not a brilliant album. While Eminem's rhyme schemes are ridiculously on point here, a rapper's voice is always a main factor in making a good song. And here he just uses this strange accent so much that it just does not sound appealing to me. Now Eminem himself has stated before that while he doesn't hate the album at all, he does think it could have been better. And to be honest, it's a shame really, because this album pretty much had all it needed to be amazing. Eminem returning after a 5-year hiatus, almost every track produced by Dr. Dre, and the return of his Slim Shady persona. But unfortunately, it just didn't live up to the hype for me. Keep in mind, I still listen to this album regularly, but not as much as the other LPs on this list. If his voice sounded more like it did on the other tracks as it did on Underground, I may have liked this album much more. At number 5, we have the Slim Shady LP, released in 1999.
So when you see me on your block with 2 blocks screaming fuck the world like Tupac, I just don't give a fuck. Talking that shit behind my back, Dirty Mac, and telling your boys that I'm on crack, I just don't give a fuck.
Now some of you may think this is too low, some of you might not. But now we're at the point in this list where I love every album past this point. At this point, it's just a case of which albums I love slightly more. The SSLP was an incredible follow-up to Infinite, with Eminem introducing the idea of his drugged up murderous alter ego Slim Shady. And it worked so well, bringing Eminem to new levels of fame and recognition, while he didn't have to sell out and could produce a quality album, with great tracks such as My Name Is and Role Model. Honestly, there's only one single track on here I don't care for, and that's Come On Everybody, and even then it's still a listenable track. Although even on many of the tracks there are levels of cartoon violence and many mentions of drug use, there are still real tracks on here about the struggles Eminem was facing at the time. Tracks like Rock Bottom and If I Had showcase that he could still show his fragile side. And at number 4 on our ranking, we have Recovery, released in 2010.
Maybe if this bitch had acted right, I would've stayed, but I've already wasted over half my life. I would've laid down and died for you. I no longer cried for you. No more pain, bitch. You took me for granted, took my heart and ran it straight into the planet, into the dirt.
Now for me, this was a great return to form for Eminem after I was quite let down by Relapse. Some people consider this album to be too poppy and mainstream, but to me it worked just right. Although I could do without the track On Fire, which sounds kind of like a bad throwaway track from Relapse. This also spawned some of Eminem's hugest hits with tracks like Love the Way You Lie and Not Afraid, both of which went 10 times platinum. Now while I do love when Eminem is just rapping about how he's the best and showing his displays of skill, one of the main things that pulled me in about this album was the emotional tracks. Eminem is an insanely good storyteller, and it honestly shows here, especially when he's rapping about his own life. It also has its fair share of banger tracks such as Almost Famous and Won't Back Down, which are fantastic workout tracks and just get you hyped every time. And I was also a fan of Eminem's aggressive delivery on this album, although I do know that some people did find it was too shouty and loud, which is fair enough, but it works for me. The production on this album is also overall pretty good, with DJ Khalil providing the best beats on this project in my opinion. Overall, I just think this album was an amazing mix of different moods and emotions, and it worked insanely well for me. At our number 3 spot, we have the Marshall Mathers LP2.
Cause ain't no more in sync, now I'm all out of whack. I'm all out of Backstreet Boys to call out an attack. I'm going all out in this rap shit, and whatever the fallout is, I'm strapped for battle. Suck a duck, crawl out the back, it's a bar fight.
Moving into the top 3, these are all Eminem albums that I just cannot get enough of. Starting off with Eminem's sequel to the Marshall Mathers LP, but make no mistake, this is not just simply a rerun of the first Eminem LP. Eminem has a completely different flow and beat selection on this tape, as you would expect considering this was released about 13 years later, while still having enough references and sequel tracks to make any Eminem fan nostalgic. I mean, the first track, Bad Guy, is basically a 7-minute long sequel to Stan, and that's one of the best tracks on here. Additionally, tracks like So Far and Rap God have many references to the first Marshall Mathers LP, and it also very surprisingly at the time had an apology track to his mother, the successful hit song Headlights. This shocked me so much when I first heard it because he'd thrown so much shade at his mother previously, but it's proving that Eminem could still surprise his fans over 15 years after his debut album. This also contains some of his most impressive rhyme schemes, something he seems very fond of nowadays, showing that his affinity for making literally anything rhyme isn't slowing down anytime soon. I think it's also worth saying that the bonus track, Baby, sounds like a track from Relapse but without the accents, which results in an incredible track. I'm telling you, the accents killed Relapse for me so much. And at our number 2 spot, just shy of the number 1 spot, we have the Marshall Mathers LP.
Look at him walking around grabbing his you-know-what, flipping the you-know-who. Yeah, but he's so cute though.
Yeah, I probably got a couple of screws up in my head loose, but no worse than what's going on in your parents' bedrooms. Sometimes I wanna get on TV and just let...
Now we jump back to the year 2000 with Eminem's third studio album, the Marshall Mathers LP. Somehow this follow-up managed to surpass its predecessor, the incredible Slim Shady LP. This album is second on this list for many reasons. First of all, the amount of controversial shit Eminem says on this tape just to fuck with people entertains me so much, even to the point where he admits he just says shit to make people mad on the track Criminal.
Shit I say, I just make it up to make you mad, so kiss my white naked ass.
The album also has insane accomplishments, as it is currently the highest selling hip-hop album to date, with around 12.5 million copies sold in the US. If you'd like to see which other albums are the highest selling albums in hip-hop, check out a list I made about it. I'll put the annotation on the screen right now. This is also another Eminem album which contains certain censored lines on the explicit version of the songs, most notably the famous I Take 7 Kids from Columbine lyric on I'm Back. It also featured Kim, which is one of the darkest tracks I've ever heard in my life. Like, that song terrified me when I first heard it. The album only really suffers minor missteps in my opinion, and pretty much all the time knows how to get its footing back straight away. And at our number 1 spot, if you haven't worked it out by eliminating all the other ones yet, what we have left is the Eminem Show, released in 2002.
Said you for real? The confrontation ain't no conversation. If you feel you're in violation, any hesitation to get you killed. If you feel it, kill it. You conceal it, reveal it. Being reasonable will leave you full of bullets. Pull it, squeeze it so it's...
And here is the album I consider to be Eminem's best. The Eminem Show was M's 4th studio album, and my god do I love this album. The rock-rap crossover production on many of the tracks fits Eminem's aggressive rapping so well, and that also makes this a fantastic album to listen to at the gym. Honestly, there's not a single track I dislike on this record, not even the slightly disgusting and polarizing song Drips, which I found quite funny to be honest, which might say something about my sense of humor. As always, Eminem covered a massive variety of topics on this album, from his love for his daughter, his hatred for his mother, all the way to the effects rap has on the youth of today. I don't think I've ever heard a more energetic and impactful album in my whole life, and it's no wonder to me that this album went diamond. This album also made Encore more disappointing to me, as it had so much to live up to with this album being so amazing. And there we go, guys, that is Eminem's entire discography ranked, in my opinion. Now, this is the Friday video. In case any of you guys are new here, the kind of structure of my uploads is 2 uploads a week, one top 10 list on Tuesday related to rap and hip hop, and then the second one will be a bonus video on Friday, also related to rap or hip hop. On the bonus video, I'll have things like I'm doing right now, discographies rank, and I'm also planning on starting a series called Worst Rappers in the Game, where I'll basically just be going over a lot of the rappers I consider to be the worst, or ones who have a negative reputation in rap music, listen to their music, and give you guys my breakdown of them as rappers and what I think. And at the end of each of those episodes, I'll rank them, so you can look forward to the first episode of that coming next week, which will be on none other than Young Thug. If you want to see that, please hit that subscribe button, and you'll be updated whenever I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching this, you guys. I really appreciate it. It's great to see the support this channel has been getting recently, especially on my video about Futuristic's top 10 fastest verses. That video just went crazy at the moment, and it's quite surprising, to be honest. But yeah, guys, keep showing the support. I love it. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like. If you want to support the channel, if you're a really big fan of it, my Patreon link is in the description. It doesn't matter if you donate or not. Anything like leaving a like or subscribing is good enough. Let me know what you thought of this video. Tell me your opinion of Eminem's best albums, or give me your ranking of Eminem's albums worst to best in the comments below. And let me know if your opinion differs from mine. We can have a nice discussion about that. With that being said, this is CDTVProductions, signing out.